Over the last year, we've seen multiple sandbox MMOs really struggle, either going through development issues or struggling to grow and hold a player base, or just closing down. Fractured released last year and went into closed development the same year. Gloria Victus and Mortal Online 2, which both came out recently, although they are pretty good games, they've got really small player bases of just a couple of thousand active players. We saw games like New World move away from its open world PvP setting into a traditional PvE game with a focus on dungeon crawling and grouped PvE content, with PvP elements as a side thing. So today I want to talk about why sandbox MMOs are struggling so much, why they're struggling to grow, hold an audience, and why some are just failing completely before they even get going. And I'm a big lover of sandbox MMOs. I'm a huge fan of open world, make your own adventure type games. But these are all just my opinions, so if you disagree with anything or you want to add your own take, I'd love to hear it in the comments. So let's just get into this. What is a sandbox MMO? So when we talk about sandbox MMOs, they're usually huge, big open worlds with very little structure or direction. You just find your own content, make your own way in the world, and that's what me and a lot of other people really love about these sort of games. There's no, you have to go into mythic dungeons and raids and all this structured content at certain times, and you have to be a certain gear level to get in certain things. You just do what you want. Maybe you want to join the game and be a farmer, or you want to go and be a blacksmith and you're going to be a specialist at mining and blacksmithing, and you're going to be really good with two-handed weapons. That's it. That's just what you do. And you can do that, and there's no one stopping you. There's elements of role-play, and there's elements of just playing with friends being a big part of making your own story, but a lot of people really love that, and I personally love that freedom. But they have their problems. Some of the main reasons that they're so niche is they're very grindy because there's no quests, or there's a lack of quests. Due to the open world nature, a lot of them have full PvP. And generally, they cater to a really niche audience that are looking for a more hardcore and immersive experience. Compared to bigger, more well-known MMOs like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, these are called theme park MMOs, where you go on the rides the developers have made. You have a set experience that the developers lay out for you, and you have to be this tall to ride the ride, right? So where you play the story in order, and then your end game, you can't go into this raid unless you have this gear. You can't go into this content unless you are this gear score. And it's very structured of you do what they tell you when they tell you. And there are elements of your own freedom, but the content itself is laid out for you and you go on that ride. So what are the big issues with sandbox MMOs? Why are they struggling so much? And why are a lot of them just completely failing? And these are just my opinions from what I've seen. I play a lot of them. I love them. I think sandbox MMOs are fantastic, but I want to play with friends and they won't even play the game because of these certain reasons. So I'm going to go into them. Let me know in the comments if you have reasons why you think there's a problem or what you like and don't like about them. I'd be really interested to hear. So let's start with the first big problem, a lack of direction. There's usually no direction in sandbox MMOs and no quests. You finish a tutorial and that's it. Games like Mortal Online, you come off the tutorial island and there's not a single quest in the game. It's just good luck. That's it, done. I personally really like that about these sandbox games. I love going and just making my own adventure and just creating that experience. But some people really don't. I've had a friend join a game like this and they get past the tutorial and go, what do we do now? Well, yeah, now we play the game, but what do we do? Where's the next quest? What do we do? And they just can't get their head around that's it. It's done. We can go level. We can go kill stuff. We can go make some money. We can go level up a craft. And they go, yeah, but so when's the next dungeon? And they just physically can't get it through their head. And I think when a game is completely open with zero quests, it really turns people away. Next up is the time commitment. Because of the lack of quests, another massive issue is that sandbox MMOs are really grindy and time consuming. Leveling requires you to grind mobs for hours on end. Some of these games have no classes or talent trees. It's literally just grinding powers. You just fight, get stronger, and the stronger players have grinded longer than others. And in the cost for immersion and realism comes that huge time cost. Rather than just teleport from city to city, you might have to manually travel on a horse. Simple crafting, where you just go to a train or learn how to craft, can be insanely complex to add realism. And all these things just make the game so much more grindy. I think it adds a lot of value to a game and makes it more fun, but if you only have a few hours a night to play, or if you want to just jump on for 3 hours in the evening and it takes you that time to get to where you need to go, it's a turn-off. Physically, you can't play if you don't have the time. The next is the number one issue. The number one reason my friends won't play a lot of these games with me is that these open world realistic games set themselves as hugely realistic. You think in the olden days, if you're running from a city to city, you can be attacked and they can take your stuff. Robin Hood would steal from the rich, and they make that in their games with full loot or open world PvP. And this turns away casual players, it turns away PvE players, and it can break new players. I adore Mortal Online 2, but getting PvP'd and losing everything when you're trying to level is vile. It is horrible. I played Wild Terror 2, which is a top-down, really small sandbox MMO, and trying to progress to an area to get certain resources to go kind of up your grade from like leather to steel or iron to steel, whatever it was. There's a guild of players that just camp this area because these resources are in a PvP area. And that's it. You're a new player. It's not like you can beat them and you're alone. You could join a group, but you're still a new player who is just trying to level up. Imagine you're playing World of Warcraft and there's level 60s just killing you in Elwyn Forest. It turns off new players so hard. I haven't played Wild Terror since, and it can be really, really painful. I think some games do it well, and it's great to get into PvP rivalries, guild v guild wars, but it can be so frustrating when it allows seasoned, good players and groups to prey on newbies in leveling zones or in zones where they need to gather beginner resources. Finally, the last big issue that I see is indie developers. And I don't want to put anything against indie developers. There's nothing wrong with being a small team making a good game. Some of the best games out have low graphics and they come from a small... Look at Valheim, phenomenal game. But when making an MMO, which requires constant updates and content, these small indie teams really, really struggle. Especially when the game is so niche, it has less than 1,000 players. As of recording this video, I'm talking about it a lot because I really enjoy it lately. Mortal Online 2, it's down this weekend because they're having technical issues. They released the patch. The patch was up and down all day and they just took it down for 2 days. It's down for the weekend. So when you have an MMO, when you're putting all your time into, and like I say, you're putting hundreds of hours in, and they struggle to even maintain the servers, struggle to get the smallest content out, and just you feel like you're playing an indie game, even though there's lots of players around. You can feel that. You can feel that indie struggle. You really, really, you can. So with all that out of the way, I think we've got some big issues. Overall, I guess I just want to say that despite these problems, open world sandbox MMOs can still do really, really well. It's just they have to make it so that players can get into it and fall in love with the game first. It's hard to bring a friend into a sandbox MMO when on his second day he gets griefed by a player and can't get out of the starter zone. It's hard when you try and show them something and they get lost and they go on the wiki and they can't find it and they go on YouTube and they get lost again and they just don't log back in. And, trust me, bro, it gets good, only goes so far. And I just wish some of these newer games were doing so much better because I want sandbox MMOs to be up there with the other big dogs, the theme park MMO. So what's the future like? What is the future of these sandbox MMOs like? I think for a game to really grow into the mainstream audience, a sandbox MMO needs to make their game more inclusive to a wider audience. We've got games like PAX Die coming out, which look super immersive and realistic with an amazing open world. And there's some smaller indie ones with a focus on systems and crafting rather than graphics. And I want them all to do well, but I think the next big sandbox MMO that really grows and does well needs to cater to less of a niche audience so it can grow its player base and make some money and be able to continue and keep developing and keep growing with all the competition they have around them. As much as I love hardcore PvP MMOs and would love to have seen a PvP New World, I think that PvE content is important. PvE servers, PvP flagging, PvP zones are really important. I think Albion has done a great job, and I think the next big MMO needs to get on top of PvP griefing for new players as a priority. It's great having a hardcore game, but if your new player experience is walking out of the city in trash gear with a wooden sword and you're getting killed by seasoned players on your doorstep, that's not a good first impression, and there's better ways to deal with that. Lastly, it needs rewarding grinds. EVE Online has rewards in that you see your ship double in size, triple in size, you can hold a fleet from a successful weekend of mining. RuneScape has its well-known skill capes for players that complete a skill grind, and I think simply gaining a level and gaining +5 strength isn't enough for the massive time commitment in these sandbox MMOs. Lastly, I think the next big MMO needs a bit of structure, even just a tiny bit of where things are or what to do next. BDO does this really well with its progression trees and challenges, but being completely hardcore and immersive to the point where you need to have multiple videos up and You need to have the wiki tabbed before you even step out of the city. It puts off so many players. These are all just my opinions because I adore Sandbox MMOs, and it's so rough seeing them. You know, they release, they go up to 3,000 players, and then in 6 months they're down to below 1,000, and they never go back up. It's really hard to see them struggle. It's really hard to see good games that you put a lot of time into go nowhere, and I just want to see more of them. Let me know in the comments, why do open world Sandbox MMOs fail? What could they do differently? And what are your thoughts on them? That's it for this video. I just wanted to talk about it. Hope you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for more MMO. I don't know. This was like just a rant discussion. I don't know. I do guides and reviews. I don't know what this was, but yeah. Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye.